I'm Nikki Blakk, and thanks for tuning in to Sixth Circle.
Do you have any tattoos?
Yeah.
Which one is your favorite?
I guess the Ramones logo. That was my first one.
Can we see it? Fair enough. What's your opinion of contemporary metal?
What do you consider contemporary?
The shit that's on the radio now, I guess?
There is no metal on the radio now.
Thank you for saying it. Thank you so much for saying it.
When you say that there is no metal played on the radio, how do you feel at your job when what I hear, because I really appreciate your show, The Metal Zone. I've been introduced to a lot of metal that I haven't been before. Not even with the internet, I haven't heard many of these bands. I just get so lost in the minutia of this band, that band. How do I tell the difference? You know, a bunch of guys with long hair and makeup and black shirts. How do I? Yeah, how can I tell what's different? So I hear your show, and I really hear some new stuff like Gojira and Machine Head and all that badass stuff. So what do you feel like you're doing here at the Bone when you say when I hear you say there is no metal? But you're.
I consider my show to be the exception. I mean, it's 3 hours a week, so it's a specialty show, and it's, as far as I know, it's the only metal show in the Bay Area. So outside of my 3 hours a week, there's no metal on the radio in the Bay Area.
Very true.
Yeah.
Much to our chagrin, we find that.
I mean, at the Bone, we do mix in a little bit of some of the lighter stuff. Yeah. We'll get Judas Priest, Dio, Black Sabbath, Ozzy, Metallica, stuff like that. But it depends on. I mean, there's this whole school of thought out there that's like, well, that's the metal everybody plays. It doesn't count.
Right.
You know, so we don't get credit for that or something in the metal world. But I mean, we do what we can. But we're a commercial radio station, right. So we have to make money, and to make money, we have to have the most people listening to us at any given time. And to do that, we have to have a balance of music that requires a lighter hand on the metal and a heavier hand on the hits. And that's just the nature of business.
Now, to expand on that, like, I feel like with metal fans being as diehard as we are, you know, couldn't it be pushed forward that if you do put out this good metal music, that you will draw these fans that have stopped listening to the radio because it's no longer tailored to them, and if it was, then you might gain them back?
It sounds great in theory, but it doesn't work in practice.
Yeah. That's the answer I didn't want.
Sorry. I hate to say it myself, too. And there's a whole other school. I've actually argued with people who are like, some metal doesn't belong on the radio. They're like, we don't want you to play Gorgoroth because they don't belong on the radio. They're not a music for everyone, and therefore we don't want everyone to have access to that music. I've actually had that argument before. But as much as I would love to have a station that caters to metal and plays metal, yeah, you can make that argument, but Sirius has liquid metal, and liquid metal hasn't blown up with all the people dying to subscribe to it because metalheads are so loyal. So while I love metalheads, and I am one, we're also very cheap.
That's true. The previous thing about how, you know, we don't want this metal on the radio, it sounds like the same douchebag who spit at Metallica for making their first music video. Like, it's just the nature of the beast. Like, you have to put your art out there.
Well, that's metalheads for you. If there's one thing we can do, it's argue. And I mean, if you want to, it's like, how do you keep a metalhead busy for hours? Just ask him what is metal. Great, you know. And then you're gonna have like nothing but an endless argument about, no, it's Metallica because Metallica started it. Well, Metallica didn't start it. Then it's got to be Diamond Head. Well, it's not Diamond Head because they're not heavy enough. It's got to be Slayer because they're heavy and blah blah blah. And it's never ending. And then it goes on from there. I'd be like, no, true Norwegian black metal is the real metal because, you know, they're untainted and pure and evil and heavy, and that's what metal's all about. Oh, what is metal all about? There's another hour and a half.
What are your favorite 3 bands of all time?
The Ramones. After that, it's anybody's guess. Honestly, I don't believe in like having a favorite band, because to have a favorite band, you have to love their entire body of work. And I don't love anyone's entire body of work except the Ramones.
What's the best thing to happen to metal?
The best thing to happen to metal? The best and the worst thing to happen to metal would be the internet, because it exposes everybody to all kinds of metal all over the world. but it also kind of homogenizes the music by exposing everybody to metal all around the world. Whereas when metal first came about, it was very geocentric, and you had the New York hardcore, and you had the Bay Area thrash, and you had like the LA kind of like punk metal fusion. You had the European stuff that was completely off in its own vein, and people just getting little tiny trickles of metal from other areas in their area as influence. So the influence was much smaller back then as opposed to now. So, I mean, you're not going to hear a lot. I mean, obviously everybody knows like the Bay Area thrash movement was influenced by the new wave of British heavy metal, but they probably wouldn't have been influenced by Swedish metal like they are now. You know, you've got Lars Ulrich talking about how he was influenced by Meshuggah. If it wasn't for the internet, that probably wouldn't have happened unless they ran into each other someplace, kind of.
What's the most epic stage show you've ever seen? And can you describe it?
Rammstein last year. Everything blew up.
That was the Oakland show?
Yeah.
I went there. It was
Twisted, amazing,
with the babies, with
insightful.
That was
I was literally in front of the stage. I was in between the barricade and the stage, just like in awe, texting a friend of mine who does pyro professionally, going, "You're not going to believe this." I was just texting him pictures of it, going, "Look, I don't know how they can afford to do this."
the angel wings with the
Yeah.
flamethrowers.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Get the exploding dead babies.
If you could book your favorite show, who would be your opener, headliner, and feature?
Oh, wow. I would probably do the Big Four, but with all the Bay Area bands instead of Anthrax. So it would still probably be Metallica, Slayer, and Megadeth, but then it would be Testament, Exodus, and Death Angel.
And name the one movie in your DVD collection that if you showed it to someone and they didn't like it, you'd have to disown them.
Star Wars. If you don't love Star Wars, I can't know you.
If you can go back in time and see one concert, what would you see? If you had the DeLorean or the TARDIS and you can go to one concert, what or who would you see?
Off the top of my head, I would say either Ozzy Metallica or Ozzy Motley Crue, because I really wanted to see those when I was a kid. But I really wanted to see Iron Maiden, Guns N' Roses too, and I got grounded. And I didn't get to go, so I was really mad about that.
What are your thoughts on Brendan Small and Metalocalypse?
I love Brendan. I stalk him. Yeah, Brendan's in my video.
Is he?
Yeah, I have the Who is Nikki Blakk video.
I started watching
Brendan's in there and he goes, "Nikki Blakk? Who is Nikki Blakk? That's the question? Nikki Blakk is magic."
I hear your heart flutter.
Every time. Every time. Especially because I've worked in concerts and I've been friends with so many people who are in bands, and because I've been kind of like in the metal scene for so many years, you see stuff on that show and you know where it came from. You know, and it's like it's like the Spinal Tap for metal. It really is. I'm Nikki Blakk, and thanks for tuning in to Sixth Circle.
Row.